Hi there, aspiring TF2 map maker. I think we as a community can agree that the funniest death in Team Fortress 2 is being crushed by a giant hammer. And if you're like me and want a map entirely based on this concept, but don't know how to do it, let a mouse who rushes through tutorials help you on this journey. So all it takes is a decompiled map in the TF2 game files, which you can find in the description below. Opening a decompiled version of SD Doomsday event where the Strongmann machine first appears, we can see how the giant hammer works in-game. If you know Hammer Editor long enough to understand the concept of logic relays, then this tool is basically the primary function for any cutscenes in TF2. To speed things up, I've attached a logic relay output step for you to read through. I've highlighted the ones important to the tutorial at least. Everything else you see is mostly SD Doomsday event specific. Now to begin, first make your room large enough to at least have the arm of the Strongmann machine. The gears don't have to be added in. Make sure you put in a spawn point for the player as you need to be near the vicinity of the hammer anyway. Using the entity tool, create a spawn point entity, but change its class to prop_dynamic and make the world model hammer_mechanism.mdl. Align it so that its animation is accurate. To test your accuracy, copy the Strongmann machine models from SD Doomsday event into your map with its button model included, but for me, I just eyeball it based on its animation. Once it's aligned, use its smash animation to draw a brush around the ground. This will be your trigger_hurt, what causes the instant death. In SD Doomsday event's file, the trigger is a cylinder, so change its property from block to cylinder before you press enter. Once the trigger_hurt has been added, we're going to need a trigger_multiple for the relay. Draw another cylindrical brush for the button that triggers the relay. This button can be hypothetically anything you want, a funk_door or just a random prop to shoot. For now, it'll be a stationary block to walk on. Now this part of the tutorial may be out of order, but I'll explain it the best I can. Before setting up everything, our last things to add are sound entities, which are mainly the audio cues for when the hammer is about to strike. According to Doomsday Event's game files, the sounds are a cranking noise, a whoosh, a smash, and a resetting noise. And if you want to be technical, the respective sound files are here. Once they're added, create a new entity called logic_relay. Using this, we'll finally make the hammer function normally. In the Outputs tab, follow the relay used in the decompiled version of SD Doomsday event, but using your sound effects names if they were altered. Make sure the delays are accurate, as we need to perfectly time them to the animation. Once the sound effects are added in, make sure the triggers are included. Once the button is touched, the trigger for the relay should be disabled upon pressing after the relay is finished. As for the trigger_hurt, it should remain disabled until the hammer comes down. All should be successfully added. Do a quick compile and test your hammer.
Kill 'em all!
While not exactly accurate to SD Doomsday event, you should be able to have the hammer come down at you much like Necrosmasher's Carnival of Carnage. Now with the knowledge of creating this hammer, you can go as chaotic as you'd like, and accuracy isn't too important. Take for instance PLR Hacksaw. Some sound effects are absent compared to its debut map SD Doomsday. And another example is one of the first maps I created, where the hammer does this instead.
Incoming smell! No! Bemelis Bronte! Many thanks!
This is basically all that you really need to make the hammer work. I hope this helps you, and I hope this gives you more creativity. Enjoy!